Okay, hi. Linnea Molina here. I am a licensed clinical social worker and the owner of Mindfully Well Therapy. Today is the first episode of hopefully many where I will do a less than 10-minute podcast, videocast episode on different topics. I'm choosing topics that come up with my own clients, and what I've noticed in my practice is that there's always a theme, that there will be something that several different clients are bringing up in the same week, and I find it interesting, and it leads to me sort of talking about the same skills or similar psychoeducation over and over. So the topic that is definitely resonating this week, which is not unique to mental health or to therapy, is anxiety. And it's anxiety specifically around a big life event happening and not knowing how it's going to pan out. So think 2020, everyone was sort of experiencing this dynamic where it was like, okay, something big just went down, life is changing, but what does that mean? And then what does it mean to process and handle and like sit with those feelings? And for some, it's just highly uncomfortable, and for others, it gets in the way of our functioning. And so one thing I'll say all the time is we all have certain symptoms that are existing in the DSM, which is the Bible of diagnosing mental health disorders. But really when it becomes a problem is when those symptoms start to impede our daily functioning, our interpersonal relationships. And so everyone gets anxious. Everyone has anxiety. You could probably look up a million YouTube videos on why we have it and sort of our reptilian brain and fight or flight. I think a lot of us know that, and if not, then tell me, and I'll talk about that. But let's just say, like, okay, I know that everyone has anxiety, but my anxiety is higher than usual because something in my life has happened. A big change has taken place. And I'll speak candidly. I've been working with some of the Los Angeles fire victims, and there's a lot of anxiety. They don't know how or what to do. There's no roadmap on what to prioritize. They have to sit with the grief of the loss, which I think is one of the main ingredients in anxiety around sort of a big life change and not knowing what that will lead to. Because there's often a little bit of grief or a lot of bit of grief around, well, there's also this part of my life that I don't have anymore or is much different. So I'm grieving that, and then I'm asking myself what to expect. We love expectations. We love being able to predict what's going to happen. That helps us feel safe. That helps us feel grounded. But the truth is, we never know. But we don't kind of walk around the world being like, well, just don't know what's going to happen. So we like to know. We like to think that we know, right? And that's key word. We like to think that we know. And which leads me to this, is if you are feeling anxious about not knowing what this big life transition means for your life and all that you knew it as, whether that's a divorce, your home was burned down, you lost a vehicle in the fires or in a car crash recently, and you don't have enough money to get a new one, and you still have to make it to work. You left your country or your state of where you were because you had to flee, but you're not sure how to kind of rebuild your life, and many others, right? But right now, I'm kind of speaking a little bit more about what's happening in California, the anxiety around what do you do when you actually actually don't have anything, right? And you feel hopeless, and there isn't going to be some answer for you. So there's a couple things you can do. We know what's helpful. We know that radical acceptance is helpful. We know that being able to reframe some of the messages you're giving to yourself about what is happening is helpful. Call that cognitive restructuring. We know that mindfulness is helpful. If you ever have a chance to look up Dan Siegel's work, he talks a lot about sort of the science behind mindfulness, and it's not just this woo-woo thing that people who do yoga do, but being able to tap into the slowness that is required to ask yourself questions and give yourself the answer to those questions so that you can choose what you want to think about something or how you want to feel. And that only comes with practice. So, radical acceptance. How the hell do you do that? It's a process. It's a never-ending process. But you start with deciding that this is something I want to accept. Some people rely on their faith. That can be a great tool. So if you have, that's a lot of times that's really built into faith-based communities. This idea of, okay, like lean into the wreckage, lean into this. There's this too shall pass, and there's a greater message. So if you have spirituality, by all means, that could be an anchor for you to lean into the radical acceptance. But if you don't feel like you have that, it starts with designing a message. Okay, what is the message? What is the one-liner? What is a sentence you can craft that you can encapsulate the thing that you want to accept? So let's just say your house has burned, which is just beyond words. There's really not a way to describe how devastating that is. Let's say the sentence is, my house is gone, and I will do everything in my power to learn how to rebuild the things in my life that I will need to feel well. Right? All true. So the key about building this radical acceptance statement is what's true. Like, this isn't just like a pretend statement, but what can you think about that is true, that you want to do, that's aligned with your values, that's tangible, accessible. Doesn't mean it's a silver lining, but it's something that you can say to yourself and believe. And if you say something to yourself and you believe that, and if you can start to say it more than once, say it on repeat, because that's really all this work. Anything you do in therapy is meant to be repeated over and over and over, because you're building pathways, you're relearning ways to respond. But what are some things that are true that you want to do, you will do, you know you can do, think, or feel about the situation you're in? So rather than, my house is gone, but everything will be okay, I want you to state what happened, add an and add 1 to 3 things that are also true about what you can control in the situation. That is sort of the formula for writing. It's essentially an affirmation, but it's an affirmation that's going to guide you to radical acceptance. And this does not happen overnight. So that's your challenge. That's your call to action. I want you to, if you feel like you're in a place where you're feeling hopeless, you're feeling anxious, you're snappy, you're yelling at people, you are going within, you're not talking, you're having trouble showing up for work, let's start by crafting a statement that is true, that can affirm where you're at, but also build hope. So the thing that happened, add an and then pick 1 to 3 things that are true about what either will happen or can happen, either in regards to your thinking or your feeling or your doing. What are one to three things that can happen or will happen that are within your control, that are either you thinking it, you doing it, you feeling it? Okay? Build that affirmation sentence for yourself, step 1, 2, and 3, and say it to yourself and see how that feels. That's step 1. Step 1. We're just going to build the sentence, say it, and then check in with ourselves. Okay, I think that was about 10 minutes. We'll see how this goes. I'm going to post this, and maybe we can get into like step 2, right? So after you build the affirmation statement and after you see how you feel, what then, right? How do I continue to do this process called radical acceptance in an effort to lower my anxiety? Okay, thanks for tuning in. I hope you come back soon, subscribe and like, and if this is not on YouTube, then don't do those things. Thanks for being here.